Fair warning, guys, we're going to get far into the weeds with this video. I've been having a lot of, let's say, heated discussions in the comment sections of my videos with people who say that the videos I make are dangerous and careless because the full self-driving beta is not a perfect driver and it's possible it could cause accidents. Instead of responding with the same thing over and over, I thought it'd be better to make a video and share with you how I feel about this subject. Be warned though, accidents and death are a really hard subject to talk about, and some of the numbers are absolutely bananas. So buckle up, because you're probably going to hear some scary things you don't want to hear and aren't particularly comfortable thinking about, myself included. Please bear with me for a moment while I make up a boring story. I want to start off with a hypothetical situation and maybe a question for you. Say there was something that was killing a few hundred people per year, let's say some rare virus or something, and it has a 100% fatality rate. So basically, if you got it, a few months later, that was it. There is no hope for you. And then comes along a vaccine that could be given to the patients to save them, but it has a major problem. While it does save 90% of the patients that it is given to, the other 10% die shortly after taking the vaccine. I think most of you would agree that it's a net benefit for humanity to keep the vaccine around and to keep giving it to people, right? And at least give the patients the option of taking it. I mean, it's literally saving 9 in every 10 sick patients that it's given to, when otherwise their chances were 0. Honestly, in my mind, even if the vaccine killed half of the patients it was given to shortly after it was taken, it is still a net benefit for humanity, and especially a benefit to the lives that it saves, because those lives would have otherwise been lost. The same logic is extremely hard to apply to self-driving cars, though, particularly because the lives it may be saving aren't as obvious as giving a sick person a vaccine. There's something that happens in our brain called psychic numbing that happens when numbers are too crazy to comprehend. In fact, it's necessary for the sake of our own sanity. If we mourned every death, we'd never be able to live our own lives properly. It's very easy to look at individual examples of things that happen and feel deeply passionate about them, but at the same time ignoring the larger picture. Some relevant examples I can think of right away are the deaths that have happened where autopilot was engaged, or even the regular crashes like when the Model 3 ran into the overturned semi-truck. Or in a non-Tesla example, the Uber self-driving system that ran over and killed a bicyclist. Every time one of these things happen, there are news reports after news reports questioning the safety of the systems and articles being written about how dangerous they are. Actually, a lot of the people I talk to about self-driving cars also feel like this. They see one particular video or news report and do not ever want to step foot in a self-driving car and say they will never trust them. But they are ignoring the larger picture. Did you know that on average, 3,700 people die every single day in auto accidents? That's the worldwide number, and it is insanely scary to think about. So instead, we'll just focus on the United States in this video because the numbers are a bit easier to digest. Based on the newest numbers from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, in the United States, on average, there are 17,200 auto accidents, 104 of those being fatal accidents. I realize that this is a lot to digest, so let's take a quick break and let me give you another hypothetical situation and see what you think about it. Let's say, starting in 2022, every single car in the United States is now replaced with a self-driving car. The same amount of cars are on the road, but now they don't have any steering wheels, and it is illegal to drive a car on the public roadways yourself. People driving way over the speed limit, cutting in and out of traffic, and doing crazy, illegal, dangerous things? Gone. Distracted driving? A thing of the past. Intoxicated drivers? They don't even exist anymore. No need to worry about those people having control of a vehicle on the road. But there's a problem. The first year this rollout is deployed, 7,600 people die in traffic accidents, and over 800,000 additional crashes occur due to the preventable mistakes the self-driving cars made. Since the self-driving cars are recording from every angle when something happens, videos flood the internet of cars crashing in all these really crazy and preventable ways that a human driver could have probably avoided. I don't think we'd find this acceptable at all, And I don't think it would even be allowed to happen. There would be public outrage. But yet, when you look at the numbers, road fatalities would have gone down by over 80%, and the roads would literally be 5 times as safe as they were before. The people that are being saved every single day have no way to even know about it. This is what makes the problem with self-driving cars so difficult. Even if autonomous cars are the vaccine, who have a 90% chance of saving someone from an accident they would have otherwise had, there will be people who will always use individual examples to say the vaccine shouldn't be given to the people. In this clip from a scaled machine learning conference held February of last year, Andrej Karpathy, who is the director of artificial intelligence at Tesla, shows some footage of Tesla's performing automatic emergency braking for pedestrians. These are instances where the driver did not brake in time and the car performed the emergency stop all on its own. Instances like this aren't even included in safety reports, but you'd better believe there are people walking around right now that otherwise wouldn't be if a car without these safety systems were there instead. And do you want to hear the craziest part?
We see a lot of these. We see tens to hundreds of these per day, where we actually are averting a collision.
Stuff like this happens all the time, every day, and lives are absolutely being saved by this technology even right now. This example I just gave is obvious though. The person in the driver's seat and the pedestrian who the car braked for both have this immediate feedback. But looking at these invisible metrics on a really large scale, and all of a sudden it gets really hard to think about in that way. And you're not alone. Self-driving cars are held to really high standards. I'm not necessarily saying that this is a bad thing. I agree that the standards for autonomous cars should be very high, but at some point we as humanity are going to need to stop looking at individual examples of the worst case scenarios and forming our entire opinion around them. We have to start looking at the bigger picture. Tesla's most recent safety report shows that for the entire fleet, while autopilot was engaged, they had 1 accident for every 3,450,000 miles driven. Keep in mind this is the overall number, even with people abusing the system like we've seen time and time again on headline news by doing idiotic things like not paying attention, bypassing the safety systems and falling asleep, or driving drunk while using the system. When an accident happens with autopilot engaged, it is almost always headline news. But to give a comparison, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reported that in the United States, the number was 1 crash for every 484,000 miles. That means if you're using autopilot, you are 6 times less likely to have a crash while the system is engaged. That number isn't exactly clear because people don't tend to use autopilot in places like parking lots where a lot of accidents occur, but no matter how you cut the numbers, one thing is very clear. Using the system the way that it was intended is statistically much safer than driving on your own, and is basically as close as we can get to a superhuman driver right now. I think the number of accidents while using autopilot may actually end up going up as more and more features are rolled out that allow it to drive in more difficult situations where even people have problems. And there may be videos on the internet of self-driving cars making some bonehead mistakes eventually. But what you have to keep focus on, though, is the bigger picture. As long as these self-driving cars are making an order of magnitude less bonehead mistakes than humans consistently make, it is a net benefit for humanity and will in fact be saving a huge amount of lives. I've heard some people argue and say the reason it is wrong to not regulate it right now is because a lot of those distracted drivers we see using autopilot wouldn't otherwise be distracted, but they are because they have autopilot to rely on. Let me tell you, using autopilot on the freeway has allowed me to look around at other drivers on the road a lot more than I had before, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret that's not really a secret. The majority of the people I see on the road are distracted. The amount of people I see staring at their lap and using one hand to drive as they text with the other is out of control. I see women putting on makeup while going 80 miles an hour on the freeway. I don't know about you, but I myself would feel much safer if these same people were behind the wheel of a Tesla using autopilot. But it's really hard to say that because I also don't want to encourage people to abuse these driver assist systems incorrectly. Basically what it comes down to is the numbers. Despite the stuff you're going to hear about how dangerous self-driving cars are in the news and how putting this technology in people's hand is going to be dangerous for people on the road, do yourself the scary favor of reading up on how dangerous the road is right this second. Let's try to get things a bit summed up here, and maybe I can deep dive more into particular subjects related to this in future videos. So, to the people who have told me that Tesla is acting dangerously by releasing the beta to the 1,000 people who currently have it, I would like to argue the complete opposite. It is dangerous for Tesla not to release the software right now. By Tesla releasing the beta to a safe group of people who use it responsibly, the cars can collect all the crazy edge cases that you'd never be able to simulate on a computer, and then sends all that data back to the mothership for training. With each edge case or issue that they are able to fix, the car gets a step closer to driving better than a human. Even if eventually it only drove as well as the average human driver, it would be paying attention 100% of the time and never be sidetracked by a text message, and doesn't care if you spilled coffee in your lap. All it knows how to do is drive with the magical wonders of machine learning working in the background. That's not to say it will be perfect. Like I said before, with more and more miles added onto the FSD beta, statistically, eventually we are going to see an accident. I just hope that when that happens, we can look at the bigger picture. It's not a reasonable thing to say that self-driving cars should never crash, only that they do so an order of magnitude less than a human would. The system is currently not ready to be a replacement for a driver and does need constant supervision, but with every software update, it becomes closer. The only question is how long until that happens. All the things they were talking about in Autonomy Day are starting to become real now, and we really are at the most interesting time in transition from human-driven vehicles to self-driving vehicles, which is a really big deal.
This will save more lives than airbags, seat belts, and anything else that anybody's ever gotten.
Because I think that's correct. It will.
Yeah. I was so impressed. I couldn't believe it. And I have some videotape, and I just asked you for using it. I want to put that out. I want the rest of the world to know what the new standard is, because in the auto world, some people are going to win, some people are going to lose, and some are just going to fade away. The more they fade away, the worse it's going to be for the general population.